me tell you a little bit about myself so you know who your instructor is for this course. Bob Boiko. I have probably about a 25 plus year history in information management systems. I started off, well, first of all, my educational background. I have undergraduate degrees in physics and oceanography. I was a science kind of guy. I got a graduate degree from the University of Utah in human communication, and that you'll see, if you look closely, informs a lot of the way that I approach this material. So I'm sort of split between the technical and the humanistic, and I think that that's a fair appraisal of the kind of attitude that I believe is most useful for studying information management. Part of it's technical, but part of it is completely non-technical and is really about how do we communicate with each other using electronic technologies. Well, my professional career, I've done a lot of different things. I've been a consultant for the last, I guess, 25, almost, well, probably something like 25 years. I started off working in another consulting company, did a tremendous amount of work around Microsoft on their early information management systems. Never worked as an employee for Microsoft, but always as a contractor. And after working for another company as a consultant for Microsoft, I started my own company and have presided over probably 200-300 projects for Microsoft over the years. Haven't done a lot of work for Microsoft probably in the last 10 years, but prior to 10 years ago, from pretty much the start of, well, let's see, I track back to DOS 5, I think, or actually even maybe DOS 3 is when I started working around Microsoft, and I exited Microsoft probably around Windows, let's see, Windows 2000, let's say. Okay, anyway, so in my consulting practice, I've done a lot of work for many other high-tech companies as well, many big corporations, Boeing, Motorola, places like that. Since, well, I had a company for about 6-7 years. Before that, I had a smaller company. My company for 6 or 7 years grew to a staff of about 100. And we did lots of work in information management systems, both before the web came along, and then when the web came along, we put large-scale database applications on the web to serve very large websites. And that's been the consistent theme really throughout my career, is managing large amounts of information to create systems that originate, store, and then deliver information on the web and beyond the web. Before the web, we were doing that on CD-ROMs and local networks. After the web, we'll be doing it in other places, mobile devices or whatever comes after mobile devices. At any rate, that's a consistent thread that's gone through all my work, is the creation and storage and distribution of large amounts of information, large-scale information bases. This class happens to be about the structure of information in XML-based systems, but the concepts that we're going to work through in this class are concepts that I've been working with for many years in many different kinds of systems. I've written, my most popular book is called The Content Management Bible, and that's now about 10-12 years old, and as far as I'm concerned, still very relevant and still right on point. And the reason is because I didn't write it to a technological specification, I wrote it to a communication specification. Technology changes from minute to minute, but the way humans communicate with each other and the parameters of that communication and what it means in terms of the structure of information and how you would amass and distribute information really doesn't change very much. What changes is our modalities of doing that. So Content Management Bible is a very thick book for practitioners of information management. And you'll see that I scoot between the terms content management and information management. Back in the day, content management was the word we used to describe all technologies that bring information to the web. I've since really gone towards the idea of information management, which is much more general. It's how do we amass information from whatever sources, including data sources, to whatever destinations, including the web or not the web. At any rate, I've done writing, and my chief book is The Content Management Bible, and it's a book for practitioners, the people who do information management systems. After writing that book, I also wrote a book called Laughing at the CIO, which is a similar subject matter, but tailored to managers and executives rather than practitioners. I also have a recent book out called Information Management Best Practices, where I edited and wrote a chapter for it. And that book is a collection of case studies from organizations who have done information management projects and initiatives, and a step-by-step guide to how to do those in other organizations. In addition to being an author, I've been a teacher. I'm obviously your teacher in this course. I taught at the University of Washington Information School for about the past 10 years. My company, my 100-person company, crashed in the dot-com bust, and I went on to do something that I actually enjoy much more, which is teaching. I was a businessman, and I've remained a businessman actually over all these years. But really, I love to be a teacher, and I love to work with students, and I love to have the classroom interaction, as well as work on more advanced technology systems like the one that's bringing you this video. I've worked on lots of curricula in the iSchool. I've created many different classes. I've taught not only in sort of technology and information structure, which is what this class is about, but I've also taught in the business of information, creating information initiatives inside of organizations. I'm as comfortable in working with business applications or business processes as I am working in technology processes. So I've taught that as well. I also teach information systems courses. I teach courses in understanding technology as well. Let's see, moving right along. I've been a businessman also for the past 25 years. When I was working as an independent contractor, I was working through another company, but really I was on my own at that point, finding my own business and making my own way in businesses. And then I've started 3 companies since then. My first company called Bobco Industries, my second company called Chase Bobco, which was the large one, and my third company, which I have now, called Meditorial Services. I've been Chief Technology Officer in those companies. I've been CEO in those companies. I've been Chief Marketing Officer, believe it or not, in those companies. Served lots of different roles, and always around the business of moving large-scale information from place to place. Finally, I've been a technologist for much longer than 25 years, probably more like 35 years. I've been involved in computers from the time when we had to submit large decks of cards in order to make computer programs all the way through the present. I dabbled quite a bit in scientific programming and sort of algorithmic programming in my physics days. I was very into the mathematics of programming and all that kind of stuff. But to tell you the truth, after working in that, it sort of bored me. And the reason it bored me was there's not enough humans in there. It was all about efficient algorithms. And I came back to programming, and I came back to technology through a different route, through the idea of bringing together information, not just data, and not just crunching through scientific equations or whatever, but being able to make a meaningful presentation of information that is meaningful to regular people, not just to scientists or not just to administrators or something like that, but to people who want to consume information. And it really brought me back to programming, and that's the kind of programming that I've done ever since for probably the past 20 years, is the programming that allows us to amass and distribute large amounts of information in a way that is compelling and useful to people. And so that brings so much more complexity and so much more richness to the task of programming that it's really, it really invigorated me on those in programming and gave me the desire to continue doing it. And I've programmed consistently over the last, well, 25, 30 years all around this idea of making information available to people. So that's a little bit of my background. I hope that gives you some insight into where I've been and what my perspective is and who I am as I teach you this course.